but he drove us all around London in his customized Mini Cooper, and they started doing our bits from the album. Him and the guy, and they knew the whole album. And Tommy and I are we're still jet lagged, you know, we just got there and we're sitting in the back seat like, what the fuck? Because 6 months before we were collecting pop bottles on the street. We had to make $1.50 a day, that was the deal. Somehow we had to get our hands on $1.50 and we could eat. We could make a Chinese meal, a beef and greens with rice. And here's Peter Sellers and his buddy smoking a bar of hash and doing all our bits. And they would laugh uproariously, and then they would do them again, you know. And they did them better than we did, you know. Like, and we remained friends with Sellers throughout till his death. You know, we find ourselves in different cities, and we get this message. Leslie Horwitz called. Okay. And Leslie Horwitz was a character from one of our skits, and that meant that Peter Sellers was in town. So we called him back and called, "Hi Peter, this is Cheech." Oh, Mr. Sellers, he no home right now. He called you back right away. He called you back. Okay. All right. Phone ring. Hello, Cheech. It's speaking. Listen, can you guys come out for lunch? Okay, sure. And okay, went out there, get to the way out in the country, and we ring the bell, and then, hello, hi, this is Cheech on for Peter. Mr. Sellers, say, come in. Okay, come in the door, and we go there, and Peter would walk out of the house. Hey, lads, come on, Dad, with a big fucking bar. It never seemed to go down, you know. I always had that, they would just light the car. No pipe, no nothing. And then we'd come in and have lunch prepared, and after a while I realized there's nobody else in this house. There's no Chinese guy. There's just Peter Sellers, you know? So we go, okay. And he never would answer the phone in his own voice, ever, for many years, never. And he'd call you right back as Peter Sellers. But he would, and that's where he got this whole character of the guy in the Pink Panther movies, his guy, and he would practice it all the time, but never answered the phone in his own voice, and he was just the sweetest guy. But he was, and he's always had this kind of demented smile. I guess it was from the hash, and he was essentially unknowable. You know, when he wasn't in character, he just kind of was in neutral. And he was the sweetest guy in the world. Nice, just wonderful guy. Extremely talented, probably the most talented comic actor or actor of his generation. You know, and he's just science fiction, but never in his own voice. So we just kind of accepted that after a while. That's what he was. Cool, but he still had that big bar ass.
And so that really leads right into Up in Smoke.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of us grew up with Up in Smoke?
We went through the record years. We made a bunch of albums that we made 6 albums. We had 3 #1 albums in a row in the days when the albums were exploding. Just the concept of having albums were exploded, and stereo equipment was getting extraordinary, and the kids wanted to listen to FM radio, and they had enough of AM, and yummy, 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 I got love in my tummy, and that's why we were a hit in these records, because they were atmospheric. You know, most of the comedians of our generation, Lily Tomlin, Richard Pryor, Steve Martin, George Carlin, their records were essentially their live act, recorded and played back to. We went into the studio and created these scenes that had sound effects and multiple voices and multiple characters. And they were like little kind of radio psychedelic stage plays, you know. And it caught on with the audience because that's what they were looking for. They want headphones. So we started doing stuff for people who wore headphones. You know, you pan a jet plane to the middle of their head, you know, all these things. And so that's what made them last long, because you could hear it. There again, once again, getting high, you could hear stuff that you didn't hear before. Yeah, I mean, you could hear the record 4 or 5 times. Oh, there's voices, and that's what they kept And so eventually after the album and concert years, we toured incessantly. We used to do at least 300 days a year for 8 years, always on the road. The only time we got off the road is when one of us needed an operation of some kind. We used to call it dry dock, you know. We go in and I get a knee operation, Tommy get new teeth, you know. So. And so eventually we realized that we had to do something different. And of course the different thing was making movies. You know, all great comedy teams made movies. Laurel and Hardy, Abbott Costello, Martin Lewis, all, you know, so we had to make a movie. And so we stopped touring and stopped making records, and we started working on our first movie. It was a long and arduous trip, but eventually we got a deal to make a movie, and we didn't know how. I mean, we never made a movie before, and so I talked in the book about, I was living out in Malibu at the time, and I was wondering, how do you structure this? How do you know, because our first thought was, well, we'll do it like a greatest hits. We'll do what we did on stage, and in some kind of anthology, and then that'll be a movie. You know, it's the same thing we did when we made records. We had to convert our stage act into something audio, you know. And that's when we figured out you had to make up stuff that sounded funny, not that looked funny, that sounded funny. We finally realized that some knives being thrust into blackboards sounded funnier than others, you know. And you find the one because it was like, you know, like making a face, but for your ears. So we were trying to work out how to do this album, or the movie, and finally we figured it out. And we just started a day in the life of our two most popular characters, Pedro and Man. And eventually we just stopped that, and we just called them Cheech and Chong. That's those guys became. And there is no greater thrill, I'm telling you, from sitting here, there's no greater thrill than doing your first movie. I mean, it's like dreams and magic and everything that you can think of. All your glorious dreams of show business come true. You're on the set and you're making your first movie. You can't believe it, you know. And we used that same improv technique for movies that we had done in albums, because we went into the studios just basic characters. Okay, you're this guy, this is the situation, let's go. And we would make it up as we went along. And okay, we go back, we do it a little bit different, but that was the basic process. So we did the same thing in movies. And luckily we hired a good cast that could be good improv actors, and we took what they did and incorporated it. And boy, we just had the best time. You know, it's like, and we didn't have any technique whatsoever, because we had never made a movie before. We couldn't do little camera wheelies or swooping shots, or, you know, we didn't even know how to do a close-up. I mean, really, we all shot it in master shots for the most part, because all we knew how to do is set up the camera and be funny in front of it, you know. And it was revolutionary for the time, because everybody was doing. You know, it was the time of the studios were financing like Hello Dolly, you know. They had no idea who these guys were. They had to like, all right, how much? All right, go ahead, you know. And we started doing that, and it was revolutionary, because what happened is the essence of the comedy, the scenes, seeped into your consciousness rather than having it crammed in. You know, you just follow the scenes and you decide for yourself when it was funny. You know, it was like dun 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 joke, dun 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 joke. It was these scenes would kind of play, and then one reviewer come, their scenes are made out of rubber, you know. They go all the way, but you get it, because we were copying the mentality of our audience, you know, and so we made movies that way, and that's why they've endured, you know, because you get to decide when they're funny, and it's a very important thing. We were showing the movie early after we finally made it, and Lou had taken it on the Paramount lot, and he was having a private screening for Warren Beatty and Pauline Kael. Pauline Kael was the movie reviewer of her time. He worked for reviews for the New Yorker, very sophisticated. And so we were walking up and down the lot, and Warren Beatty comes driving by, and he sees us. We had met him before, and he rolls down the window. He says, "I just saw your movie." He says, "You guys have no idea what you did."